You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump press secretary who insulted Gen Z is losing MAGA support, based on an article by Matthew Rasa. The party of power is blaming the young for the damage it made. A small messenger, a large machine. Karoline Leavitt's problem is not that she said something rude to Gen Z. Her problem is that she said the quiet part of MAGA governing logic out loud. The administration can make life more expensive, then lecture the people paying for it. The reporting here is brief, but the political shape is clear. Trump holds institutional power. Leavitt is one of the public-facing instruments of that power. The grievance machine is now eating one of its own mouthpieces because she got too comfortable insulting the very people the administration is failing. The real story is affordability. The source points to the actual issue and then shows how MAGA tries to swat it away. Trump's support among young people has fallen. Economic policies are a major reason, and Trump himself has called the affordability crisis a hoax while minimizing housing costs. That is not confusion. That is political refusal. When a governing coalition presides over worsening costs and then insists the problem is imaginary, it is not miscommunication. It is an effort to control blame while doing nothing that would change material conditions. Misdirection as a governing style. Leavitt's answer is the standard elite dodge dressed up as generational contempt. Young people are lazy, spoiled, indoctrinated, and supposedly need to be shipped off to Cuba or Iran. That is not analysis. It is scapegoating. It shifts attention away from policy failure and onto the supposed moral defects of the public. The point is to convert a distribution problem into a culture war, because culture war costs less than actually governing. The framing is weak because it treats the public's anger as a communications issue instead of a consequence issue. People do not need a better slogan when rent, groceries, and fuel are the problem. They need an administration that is willing to recognize the problem exists. MAGA youth problem is self-inflicted. The backlash inside MAGA tells its own story. Orrin McIntyre and Mark Mitchell did not suddenly discover democratic virtue. They noticed that Leavitt's line was too nakedly contemptuous to be useful. Their concern is not principle, it is electoral damage. Young people are not being lost because Republicans fail to sound more empathetic. They're being lost because the movement openly serves a politics of enrichment, denial, and humiliation. That is why the article's detail about Leavitt's own position matters. She's 27, tied to privilege, still owing money to campaign creditors, and speaking as a paid defender of a wealthy, shameless administration. Her message is not "I understand your struggle," it is "submit to the people causing it." The point is not reform. Leavitt's defenders tried the usual move: call criticism bad faith, invoke media unfairness, and drag Hitler comparisons into the picture to blur the original offense. That is a familiar authoritarian trick. Shift the frame from power to performance, from policy to outrage, from consequence to tone. But the underlying reality does not change. Trump's circle is trying to govern through contempt while insisting contempt is not what it is. The Democratic coalition should not imitate the style. It should expose it. The argument is not that young people are being too sensitive. The argument is that an administration that lies about prices, mocks material hardship, and launders failure through insult is unfit to govern. What this reveals: this story is not about one reckless press secretary. It is about a ruling faction that treats public suffering as an inconvenience to be managed with propaganda. It blames the young for rejecting a system that gives them less and asks more. It calls crisis a hoax. It calls criticism disloyalty. It calls entitlement everyone else's problem. That is the pattern. Power breaks things, then sends out a spokesperson to sneer at the people living inside the wreckage. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Ultranet for today's article. With the automated voice of Kuzil, thanks for listening.